Hi, I'm Alex. This is Pucksandpaperbacks, where I love to shout about queer and trans books. Today, I'm sharing my July reading wrap-up. If you're new to my channel, I do not rate books. I stopped star rating them a couple years ago because it just didn't work for me. Therefore, in all of my videos, including my wrap-ups, I do not give a star rating. I believe my reviews are in-depth enough that you'll know if I like or dislike a book. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into the video. For my stats, in July, I've read 6 books, 985 pages, and 22.38 hours of audio. As you can see, audio won for me this month. 5 out of 6 of those books had LGBTQ+ rep. For format, I read 3 physical books, 1 ebook, 1 audiobook, and 1 book was a mixture between the ebook and the audiobook. 4 were novels and 1 I considered a novella. For genre, I read 2 nonfiction books, 1 contemporary, and 3 romance novels. For audience and demographic, I read 1 YA book and 4 adult novels. For publication year, I read 2 2025 releases, 2 2023 releases, 1 2021 release, and a 2019 release. In this portion of my wrap-ups, I usually share my reading challenge progress. However, next week I'll be sharing my quarter 2 reading stats, so I'm going to skip this week because I'm going to be telling you more details and going over my reading challenge progress there. Now to the books. Every book I read this month was for a video, so I'm going to do what I did last month and organize this by video. Starting with TBR Tackle. I had Pinterest pick my TBR. This was so much fun, and I got 2 great books out of it. The first book I read in that video was Food-Related Stories by Gaby Melian. I loved this so much. This is a short nonfiction in the Pocket Change Collective by Penguin Teen. If you've been around my channel for a while, you'll know this is one of my favorite series. It is a nonfiction series about activists. They write these short little books about topics. Sometimes it's about their lives or specific topics, including climate change, art, and in this case, food. This is Gaby's short memoir. It has different stories about food. She's most known for being the kitchen manager on Bon Appetit. I didn't know anything about her getting into this book, but now it's one of my favorites. I loved this book specifically because it is broken up into different chapters and they are titled Food is Blank. Food is an adventure. Food is a story. Food is patience. Food is strength, and so on. I tabbed so much of this book because I really enjoyed the writing. I was drawn to the passages about food. She is connecting a lot of moments in her life and memories with food. She talks about how she felt connected to her mother by eating her mother's last dish that she made her before she passed away. She also shares about her time in Argentina, where she's from. She talks about how special it was to have fresh ravioli made from her abuela. I just adored this book so much, and I'm sad that I just got around to it, but better late than never. I adored this and I highly recommend it. And the last book I read for that video was The Next Chapter by Camille Kellogg. This is her sophomore romance novel. The Dial Press sent me a review copy, so thanks to them for sending this over. This was a free copy and I'm not being paid. All thoughts are my own. This is a queer romance inspired by Notting Hill. I highly recommend to go and watch the video if you haven't, because I share more details, you see my live reactions, and I actually watch Notting Hill. I never heard of that movie before, so I watched it and was able to compare the movie and the book. This is following Jude, a queer bookseller whose mother passed away, and Kat, who is a former child star. She has recently discovered that she's queer and she wants to come out, but her publicist decides she should do it as a publicity stunt to help her get into the industry. Since she was a child star, she hasn't gotten many roles and wants to start over. This is so messy. If you want messy queers, I highly recommend this. It is so so good. This is easily my favorite book of the month and this year. Content warnings for grief, cancer, death of a parent, alcohol. There's a scene where a character gets drunk, depictions of an eating disorder, manipulation, sexism and misogyny, and a toxic relationship. Next, I did an experiment where I woke up at 5 a.m. every day for a full working week, Monday to Friday. I am so happy that's over. I am cherishing my sleep now. I will never do that again. I commend anybody that does that, and I also want to acknowledge people that do get up at that time for work. You are a real one. I loved the reaction to the video. In the comments I was sharing that I have gotten up at that time before when I was commuting to college, but I quickly stopped doing that and I decided to just live on campus. My life was changed ever since. But I will say I am somebody that's good if I know I have something to do, I will get up. I think that's why I was getting up at 5, but Leo was my alarm clock many mornings. That wasn't a traditional reading vlog. I just wanted to experiment, but I was able to read one book. I did finish the next chapter in that video, but I did read one book and reviewed it. In that video, I read Gender is Really Strange by Teddy G. Gautiez. I was sent a copy by Jessica Kingsley Publishing. It was for Pride. I will link that video up above. I unboxed it along with some goodies from Harlequin as well. I was not sent this for review. It was just for fun, but I'll just let you know that they sent it to me. I loved this. It is a science medicine comic about gender. I think it did a really good job covering all of its bases because I've read books that talk about gender or transness and I wish they would go a little bit farther. This specifically talks about how gender is cultural. I really appreciated that. That's what I mean by it feels like it touched all of its bases. It didn't feel like it was just this book about gender and about how to be trans or about transness in general. It talks about the societal, emotional, and mental side of gender. And it also talks about the origins of gender. We talk about the man who created it. They also acknowledge how shitty of a person he is. I really appreciated that. Overall, I enjoyed my time reading this and I can recommend it. Before we get back into the video, have you ever wanted a personalized book recommendation from me? If so, here's how. A part of my Patreon, on the top tier, every quarter of the year, or at least every 4 months, you get a personalized book recommendation. I send out a post with a survey. You fill out a bunch of questions for me to better understand who you are as a reader and what recommendation you're looking for. If my content's ever been meaningful to you and you want a personalized book recommendation, I am currently taking them on Patreon just for August, and then I will do it at the end of the year as well. So this is your time if you've ever wanted to become a part of my Patreon and you want a personalized book recommendation from me. I make a lot of free book recommendation videos, but if you've ever watched them and you're like, I wish Alex could give me a book recommendation, now you can. It's only $10 USD before tax. As a small trans creator who is not in the partner program, Patreon is the best way to support me. So if you have the means and my content's ever been meaningful to you, I would really appreciate if you joined us over there. You will become a paperback pal, have access to our Discord, and you'll get behind the scenes and exclusive content every month. I hope to see you over there. The link is down below. Now back to the video. My last video of July was my big project, Trope Taste Test. This is my series where I test different tropes to find out what I like. I know which ones I do like: fake dating, rivals to lovers, and enemies to lovers, but there are so many romance tropes out there that I've never read before, or I haven't read them enough to know if they're a favorite or not. That's the whole purpose of this series and why I created it. So for July, I read Marriage of Convenience. You'll have to go watch that video to know if this is my new favorite romance trope or not. Here are the books. I started off with the Fiancée Farce by Alexandria Bellefleur. This is a bookish marriage of convenience following Tansy and Gemma. Gemma is a romance book cover model and her family owns Van Dalen Publishing. For Tansy, she works at her family-owned bookstore. She has been pestered about having a girlfriend. So she decides to lie because she is fed up with the questions. She's in the bookstore and she sees the name Gemma, so she just says that Gemma is her girlfriend. But she actually ends up running into Gemma. This is what kicks off their fake dating and then marriage of convenience. I really enjoyed this book. This had a sweet sapphic romance. If I didn't clarify, these are adult romances. If I ever do read a YA romance, I'll let you know. This is a romance between two girls in their 20s who are in a marriage of convenience. Gemma's grandfather dies and leaves the publishing company up to her, but the caveat is she has to get married and be married for at least 3 years to inherit the publishing company. For Tansy, her stepmother wants to sell the family bookstore, but this is her last tie to her father, so she says no, but she needs enough money to be able to save it. So the two decide, since they both need something from each other, that they will arrange a marriage of convenience. I enjoyed this book. It has anxiety rep, which I thought was well done, and overall I enjoyed the book, and I am excited to read more from this author. This was the first time I ever read from Alexandria Bellefleur. I do want to read more of her books. I've had them on my TBR, but just haven't gotten around to them. So now that I've finally read her, I'm excited to read more. Content warnings for the Fiancée farce include explicit sexual content, grief, sexual harassment, alcohol, toxic familial relationship, death of a parent, emotional abuse, anxiety. There's multiple panic attacks on page, classism, and bullying. Then I read Xeni by Rebekah Weatherspoon. I might have been saying it wrong in the video, so apologies if so. In this romance, we're following Xeni, a young girl whose Aunt Sable dies, so she leaves LA and goes to New York to help her family and pack up the house. While she's there, she learns that Aunt Sable left the house and a bunch of other things to her. There's 2 estates, one in New York, one in Boston on Martha's Vineyard, and we have 2 cars, plus a shit ton of money. But she has to marry a Scotsman named Mason in order to inherit all of this. Mason will also be getting a chunk of money to pay back his father and some student loans. Now, Xeni is like, who is this man? I have never met him before, but once she does, he sweeps her off her feet. Both characters are bisexual, and I really enjoyed this. This is a steamy book with explicit sex scenes. I enjoyed the writing. My only critique of the book is the ending felt very rushed and I wish it had been more fleshed out. I devoured this book. I enjoyed the characters and the way the story went. There's so much mess and drama, especially family drama, as Xeni learns a bunch of family secrets. It also centers music. Mason plays the bagpipes and is in a band, and Xeni's family members were in an R&B group. Overall, I really enjoyed this. It is self-published by the author, but she does have some traditional works that I would like to check out. I would also like to read more in this series, so I'm excited to read more of this author. Content warnings for Xeni include death of a family member before the story begins, grief, bisexual adult with an unsupportive parent, discussions of abortion in a character's past, brief mention of miscarriage in a character's past, and explicit sex scenes. And last, I read the Broposal by Sonora Reyes. I love this author. This was my first time reading their adult work because I've only read a YA from them. They never miss. I had so much fun reading this. I was constantly thinking about it and I devoured it. We follow Han and Kenny, who are childhood best friends. They have known each other since kindergarten. They're currently roommates, and Han is an undocumented immigrant. He has so much anxiety surrounding this. He loses his job, and he is panicking. Luckily, Kenny is able to get him a job, and all goes well. Kenny is going through it. He's also bisexual. He is in a relationship with this girl named Jackie, who is super toxic. I hate this woman so much. She's horrible. I was so sad for Kenny, and anxious for him as well. She is a horrible person. This is one thing I enjoy about Sonora Reyes and their work. Their character work is so good. You end up hating this girl by the middle of the book because she just gets worse and worse. But you get to see Han and Kenny's relationship blossom. I adored them so much. I think because I have a childhood best friend, I just understand that relationship and the feelings that come with that. Kenny helps Han in so many ways, and Han does the same. Han is autistic, and I loved that Kenny just recognizes when he needs some time to himself and he doesn't pressure him to do anything. This was just such a messy book, but I had so much fun reading it. Content warnings for the Broposal include ICE, police, racial profiling, immigration issues, injury/breaking a bone, ankle, physical and emotional abuse, queerphobia, addiction-related death, sexually explicit scenes, panic attack on page, vomiting, pregnancy, abortion, workplace discrimination, and alcohol. Those are all the books I read in July. Thanks so much for clicking on this video and spending some time with me. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and leave a comment down below. It helps me out a ton. Let me know what your favorite or least favorite book of July was. I would love to know, and if you don't feel like leaving a lengthy comment, you can just leave a book emoji. Thank you to my top patrons for their support this month. Like I've mentioned, if you want a personalized book recommendation from me by signing up on the top tier, you will get it this month. You just have to click that form. After you sign up, you can go to my collections and find the post where I share the survey. But if you sign up and you can't find it, you can just let me know and I will send it to you. I appreciate any and all support over on Patreon. It is the best way to support me. The link is down below. If you'd like to watch more, I will link my past video here and you can subscribe there. Bye.